Welcome to the Nevcast, where three bros talk business, art, justice, and the pursuit of Jesus.
Any day above ground is a good day.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and kiss 30 minutes goodbye with Peter Nevland,
Dave Nevland,
and
Rashid. Dave Nevland.
Ah, yes.
On the
He's
Nevcast.
the older brother. I am Dave's bro.
Yeah, you're my bro. You're my
Rashid,
you're my
Dave's
blood bro.
Rashid, you're Dave's bro, too.
It's true.
Yeah, I know, man. I know Dave's my brother. Everybody tell us we look just alike.
Seriously. I know, right?
And
Yes,
Peter, you look like
so
Usher.
much.
Usher and Champ.
Fucking uncanny.
Basically, pick any person with a big, oversized head and somewhat skinny body, and you got me.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Man, you know what's crazy? I was just thinking about, old Roy, man. He's a deep brother, man.
That's right.
Deep. He's a deep dude, man.
I gotta remind him that. Roy, hello, Roy. Good to see you, Mr. Sir Boss. You're a deep brother.
It's funny if you're just tuning in. Our last episode, we were talking to the estimable Roy H. Williams.
Inestimable, I think.
Inestimable, maybe yes. Inestimable. Yeah, you can't.
Say.
That's right.
Inestimable.
Well, he's very esteemed.
Okay. Esteemable.
Esteemable, not estimable. Whatever.
You kind of estimate how far he's going to go in life.
Anyway.
No, you can't estimate.
But we were having a really good conversation. He said some really cool stuff to Rashid and to all of us, actually. So if you haven't, go back and check it out. But we're going to talk about something different today.
The difference between estimable and inestimable. Are they one of those two words that mean the same thing?
No, we're going to talk about your green shirt. That's what we're going to talk about.
That's inestimable.
Rashid, I know that you're join us by phone. You can't see it, but Dave's wearing this green shirt that's a really nice color, and we were thinking, maybe we could green screen his shirt. And so it's just his head and his arms are kind of floating.
Like a talking
head. And then we could put like I don't know, like the beach in his chest.
And
or we could put a space shuttle flying by or something.
Water flowing
on. A beating heart, maybe a skeleton or something like that,
Water flowing under.
Halloween's
the
coming
heads.
Up. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Talking
yeah,
heads.
It's so crazy, man. With the from losing my little brother to gun violence, man, here in Houston, man, I want to just tell you, man, and I know y'all my brothers, man, but I tell anybody this, man, if you got a brother that you close with, if you ain't close with, man, call them and tell them you love them every day, man, and tell them don't wait, don't wait. Tell the person you love them every day, man, because what I done learned in life is, bro, is that tomorrow is not promised, man.
That's right.
And we gotta make that a primary objective, man.
That's right.
One of our primary objectives, man, is to call our brothers and stuff and tell them, that we love them, because we just think we get up and, like Peter, y'all, you doing good in your marketing and stuff, and you running your family, and you're head of your household, and you and your wife, and I'm proud of y'all, and same thing with Dave. But we act like we got our whole lives ahead of us, man. And,
right.
But we don't remember that Isa Salih Alaihi Wasallam said that he gonna come like a thief in the night when he come get us, man.
Yeah.
So we gotta call our people and tell them that we love them, man.
Yeah.
And even though I know death is a gift, I believe, me personally, I believe if we go to be with God, that's a gift. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But call your brothers, man, and tell your people you love them every day. That's one of the things, man, to help me get through, man.
Man.
We always said, just like me and you, Peter. Every time we have a conversation, we don't never end the conversation without saying we love each other.
That's
bro.
true. That's true. Well, and there's a scripture verse that says, "Encourage each other while it's called today." Mm-hmm. It doesn't say encourage somebody when you feel like it. It says do it now. Come on, man. What's called today? Don't let the sun go down. A lot of people talk about, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Well, don't let the sun go down on your encouragement.
Right.
Start that that's a good way.
Yeah.
You know what else, Dave? That shirt color it just brings out the green, the olive green in your eyes too.
And as I'm
That's
looking
striking.
at you, you're kind of dusty, dark blue, gray, charcoal, like
Yes.
brings out the color of the eyes. Your eyes like the sea after a storm.
Say it with me. Say it
Like
with
the
me.
eye, like the sea after
Like a
storm.
lion. Like
Kick you
yes.
in the face, straight face.
Corinthian.
But they are the same.
Corinthian
Not
leather.
It's not Corinthian leather.
I am Ricardo
It's not
Montalban. Yes.
Desert leather either.
The Chrysler LeBaron. It is
You
the car of the future.
No.
You can see yourself
crazy.
No, but
driving
your
behind
shirt
the
is
wheel.
the same color as your eyes right now.
Just comforted
gray
and cradled
blue.
in Corinthian leather. It is, yes.
From death's heart, I spit at you.
I spit at you, Kirk.
Oh my God.
Captain Kirk.
What the?
Ricardo Montalban, man, what a
That's enough entertainment for the next 2 or 3.
talk about a guy. I mean, you think
podcasts.
about a guy whose career came almost exclusively from the sound of his voice.
Absolutely.
You know.
Well, if
And
you
it's
think a lot of the
Fantasy Island,
Yes, yes.
right?
That's right. Well, and his sidekick on that island, I mean, came
plane,
his
the plane,
career
boss,
came
the
from
plane.
his voice too,
That's true.
and
That's
his
true.
diminutive,
His diminutive
size.
stature. Yes.
Yes, but
Well, speaking of
diminutive stature.
yeah, he was very small.
I
He's
know,
short.
no. I thought you were going to segue into something about diminutive stature.
No. That's a totally different. That's a different podcast. And yeah, I've got poems about that. But anyway,
Okay,
yeah, well, you know,
Right.
that's the one that. Anyway,
we're gonna talk about some compassion
well,
for
compassion.
people.
So I saw this. I saw this story in the media, and it stirred me. And then I saw another story in the media, and it stirred me. And I don't know if Rashi, if you
Ever
you
had a
saw
story
this
in the media that
news.
stirs you? That's so rare today.
Well, this one it just got to me. So I saw the title, and I was actually on ESPN. So it's a sports website, and I see this in one of the top headlines, and it says,
People would love for this to stay out of the sports talk.
it says
But
500
there it
women
is.
athletes urge Supreme Court to protect abortion rights, and I was like, oh, interesting. I want to see, what they're saying, right? And so then it threw the most famous names among these 500 women athletes out there first, which was Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird. And, I don't know if you know Rashi, those two, they're married, and one is on the United States women's national soccer team, and the other one is a women's basketball star. And, but anyways,
How many years
but it
does
was,
she have left on the women's side? I mean,
she's done.
I was about to say,
Megan Rapinoe, I think
she just retired
I
or
believe she
something.
just retired from.
Yeah.
But anyway, it said
She did-
500 women athletes. So it's not just those two, but it's 500 women athletes. And so they wrote the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court made the decision to uphold the Texas heartbeat bill, which says that basically women can't have abortions past 6 weeks when there's a beating heart of the baby. And then it was novel in the sense that they said, if you see someone violating, the state's actually not the one enforcing the law. They said, if you see a doctor performing an abortion, you can
deputized
sue
society.
you can sue the doctor, and the government will pay you $10,000 for suing that doctor. Or maybe make him pay you.
I mean, this
kind of a crazy
Texas
enforcement
throwing down the law. I mean,
Yeah, throwing
down the gauntlet. Really.
So obviously, it caused a big stir.
Line in the sand like a San Antonio.
Yeah, but which is
Alamo.
interesting, right? So they enact the law. It obviously didn't convince people that didn't agree with it, and so these 500 women athletes write the Supreme Court. And so I just want to read from this a little bit. This ESPN news story, which I think they pulled it from Reuters, the news service. And so it says, so they include a number of different basketball standouts, a number of different ones. They say they urge the U.S. Supreme Court to protect abortion rights in a case involving Mississippi's Republican-backed bid to ban the procedure after 15 weeks of pregnancy. So Texas enacts the law. Mississippi gets the desire, says, oh, we could do a similar law to this, but they made it after 15 weeks.
There's more states that are trying to.
And more states are
North
starting
Dakota,
to follow that lead. So abortion opponents have asked the court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, although they
Supposedly.
ruled 5-4, to overturn the landmark 1973 Roe versus Wade ruling that recognized a woman's right to end a pregnancy and made abortion legal nationwide after it was outlawed in certain states. More than 500 athletes and groups signed a friend of the court brief to the justices, including 26 Olympians, 73 professional athletes, and various athlete associations. They argued that abortion rights have helped the growth of women's sports and expressed concern that future athletes would suffer without those protections. And then they said, without the right to terminate a pregnancy, and they quote from the brief, this is the quote that they take, without the right to terminate a pregnancy, in quotes, the physical tolls of forced pregnancy and childbirth would undermine athletes' ability to actualize their full human potential, the brief stated. And that was the thing that stirred me.
Wow.
And so first I want to go through this, which I think, to clarify, I think what they meant by this, because I think you could take it wrong, but I think that there's also some part that still will cause a reaction. When they say the physical tolls of forced pregnancy and childbirth, I think what they're saying is that if a woman does not desire to have to continue the pregnancy and wants to end the pregnancy, having a law that says you cannot get an abortion, forcing her to go through that childbirth and pregnancy,
it has to be what they meant.
Yes, will undermine her ability to actualize her full human potential. Now,
at the same
second
time,
part, I get you don't agree with, but I heard some people responding to this and saying, nobody's forcing Megan Rapinoe to get pregnant. Nobody's forcing Sue Bird to get pregnant. Well, in fact, they're married to each other.
And at the same time, they may have used that language to recall the popular show Handmaid's Tale, which in Handmaid's Tale, they are forcing women to get pregnant. So it's like, and the opponents to these rulings dress up and act, when they activate against it, they dress up as the Handmaid's Tale people, right?
Well, so I think the first part of this is there's a huge emotional component to it that I think if you're going to understand perhaps the opposite side of a viewpoint that you believe, you need to first understand and be able to clearly and eloquently speak on their behalf to say what they would say.
Yeah.
Right. You cannot get to a resolution, which I think the huge problem, I would say, this is just my opinion. Obviously, Dave, you and Rashid can weigh in, but my opinion is that the reason why there's so much contention about over abortion back and forth is partly because it's a huge issue and it's a big issue, but the other part is because each of the sides feels so morally right that they refuse to consider the other party's perspective or viewpoint at all. Yeah. And so I just want to bring up first of all the viewpoint that I think a lot of the women, these 500 women athletes, I guarantee you that there are a significant number of them who have been in some way either sexually either attacked by a man, assaulted, or even raped. Yeah. And so I would say in their minds, there is an actual component that absolutely is legitimate to use those terms and say forced pregnancies, forced childbirth, by not having abortion as a possibility. So there's that. There's this huge thing of, the women who are arguing for a women's right to choose are saying, listen, as women, we have been put into, forced into these awful, awful decisions by either, say maybe we had a relationship with a guy, we had sex, I got pregnant, and then the guy just abandons me and I'm left alone. Yeah. And if abortion's not the possibility, then I'm a single mom, my life's over. Right?
I mean, society, it'd be great if society blames that guy more that leaves and is dead.
Well, it still doesn't solve the problem.
And but yes. if we publicly shamed the guy,
if we held men accountable for having sex, as well as we're holding women accountable for having sex. That's because women get held accountable no matter what when pregnancy happens. I mean, that's the
yeah.
Right.
Just human anatomy and biology.
Human anatomy does that. But for a man, guys like to pretend that they can get away scot-free, and have for a long time. And the statistics are staggering, I mean, being part of the Poetry Slam, I've heard a lot of these over and over. But, I mean, I think the numbers are somewhere in the nature of 1 in 3 women in our culture has been sexually assaulted or raped at some point in their lives. Now, that is awful.
Yeah, that's awful. And it actually, you know what? It may be less now than in other ancient times. You heard like Genghis Khan. It was a Genghis Khan that would just send his send his army out to go do that, go rape and pillage because he wanted to fill the earth with his DNA and his stuff. And so that would have been more than 1 in 3.
Right.
I mean, this is a tactic by. I might be getting that wrong. It might not be Genghis Khan. It might be the other guy, the Mongol.
Attila the Hun.
Attila the Hun might be Attila the Hun, but
whatever. It's been done.
It's been done.
This is
the Romans in the first night.
Dude, this has
first night. Yeah.
Prima nocte or whatever. I mean, this has been an issue for a long time. I'm just saying that, it is not without merit.
There's reason for misandry.
Outrage in women community and feminism, the rise of feminism, women's rights, well needed. There's real hurt that needs to be listened to, needs to be cared for, needs to be supported there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, say.
What are you saying, Peter? Like, what are you saying? Is you okay with the abortion?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Question.
That's a good question.
It's a great question.
It's a real good question.
Does one hurt justify another?
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
Taking of another life.
I wanted to preface that. I wanted to put that out there and preface that and say there is real hurt and there is real woundedness there, and there are real women involved in this that need to be cared for, in addition to the babies who, or however you want to term it, the fetuses or the babies that they are carrying inside of them.
Yeah.
That's a real issue too. And so
I
just want to say that
talking about
abortion. We're a bunch of guys. Like I can't.
I mean, yeah. I for a long time was a little bit silent on the issue.
Right.
Until it's about 10 years ago. Until the women around me, I heard the women around me saying, "No, no, no, protect the baby, protect the life. It's a viable life." And they were so vocal that I had to stop being so silent and support the women around me.
Right.
And so, that I knew that I was in a relationship with.
And despite being a guy, now I've walked with my wife through 6 different pregnancies, 3 of which resulted in the birth of a baby.
Yeah.
And as much as I went through walking alongside her with that, it's not anywhere close to what she went through from not only a physiological standpoint, it was the obvious thing, but then even more so the emotional aspect of that. I mean, when we've had miscarriages, the grief that she feels is far, far greater because, I mean, she could feel the baby inside of her.
Yeah.
I could never, and there's a, I mean, part of me is a little bit jealous, not of the difficulty, but of that wonder and magic that happens in woman's body during pregnancy that I'm never going to be able to fully understand that, this side of heaven, right?
And let's say still the majority of women on the planet feel that majesty and wonder of a new life being created.
Well, but in our culture, there's so many stories told about the hardship and the pain of pregnancy and labor and birth and everything like that, and even of having kids that, we don't really treasure children, I don't think, that the way that we could. So I mean, so there's that aspect of it too. So you hear me in that, Rashi? There's the woman that I care deeply about, and then there's also the babies that I care about deeply too. You hear me?
Right. Yeah.
So what struck me so strongly was the statement that so all that stuff,
Right.
That they're saying when a woman is put into this, I'm just saying, I'm going to paraphrase and I'm going to say it my way. When a woman is put into this position where she doesn't want to have the baby, but she has to have the baby, they're saying it would undermine an athlete's ability to actualize their full human potential.
Now that's the big thing right there.
That's the one that struck me just like a ton of bricks.
I mean, is that
That's malarkey. That's malarkey.
Yeah. So tell me.
Is that a true example of the tail wagging the dog? I mean, that is turned around.
Tell me what you think about that, Rushy, because you said, I mean, you had a visceral reaction too. You said that's malarkey. So tell me what.
I've never heard you say the word malarkey before.
I mean,
I think there's other words.
We've never heard Rushy cuss.
You said malarkey. What actually is malarkey?
I'm messing with you, Rushy. All right. So why do you say that's malarkey?
You said that having an abortion is going to undermine an athlete. That's what you said, right?
No, they're saying if a female athlete was forced to carry a child to full-term pregnancy and then have the baby, it would undermine their ability to actualize their full human potential.
Right.
Oh, hell no. No, that's not. How's that going to undermine? That's just something somebody, what's the word? Making stuff up, man. Making stuff up. I don't care what happens. Okay, all right, let's say a woman get raped, right?
Yeah.
Now, I feel sorry for the woman. If a man got to go out here and force himself upon a woman, they need to take him somewhere and hang him, because you don't take a woman. You don't take nothing from nobody, especially rape a woman. I don't like rapists, and I can't stand rapists. So I frown upon that, even God. But I say if you having a baby, man, if a woman is getting raped or something like that, man, they got adoption agencies. Put the baby up for adoption. That goes back to what we was saying in the first. We was talking about on the phone with me, you, and Roy with the laws and stuff.
Mm.
When it comes down to it, God says, "Thou shalt not kill," man. So you cannot kill. You can't kill something, man. Even though you can't see it or whatever, it's still a life. So that baby still, supposed to live. Take it and put it in adoption. Adoption. I don't know, a foster home. Let it come up in a foster home, but to kill it, you just took a life. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. I don't know where that came up from, and I bet you the woman got to be. The woman who came up with that. Is she a gay woman?
Well, it's not the woman. There's 500 women, 500 female athletes. Now, there are a lot of them
that supposedly aren't going to reach their full potential if they're
forced to go through with pregnancy all the way through to childbirth, right?
Yeah.
So
whether
would
they
say
put them up for adoption or not.
I can't actualize my full human potential. So, yeah. So there were a number of them. There are a number of them who are gay. There are a number of them, I believe, who are not, as well. But
they shouldn't be opening their legs to have sex. While you playing sports.
But that's what they're saying is that not all of them are consenting. So that's one point, and you can focus on that point. I want to get to this thing of, so how do you measure full human potential? Yeah. And I think
pretty subjective.
It's pretty subjective for one, but if you are an athlete who has never been pregnant, now I believe there's probably quite a few of them who have been pregnant.
Sure.
Right? There's got to be.
Yeah, it has to be.
If you're a woman who has not been pregnant, then I would think it would be easier to believe that your full human potential is measured by how much you can achieve in life from an athletic standpoint, right?
Right,
and full human potential. How fast can I run? How many goals can I score? How many baskets can I shoot? How can I do all those things? I remember whenever I was in Germany as a student. This is my junior year of college, and I was studying in Germany, and I was learning German. I was at this intensive German learning course for a month, and I was with some other guys from America, and some of them were these super smart kids who were over there, engineering kids who were also could speak German and could speak English and all this stuff. I was learning German for the first time, and some of these guys, they said, "Oh, And I think I was talking about how awesome, the soccer game was, or some soccer player or something. They're like, yeah, but I would never want to be an athlete. I would never want to be a professional athlete. And I was like, really?
Because it would stunt their potential
why
as
not?
An engineer.
Why not? That's what he said. He said, I would never want to become an athlete. I was like, why not? He's like, because you don't get the chance to develop your mind. I'm like, what are you, crazy? You can develop your mind anytime you want, in any way you want. Like, how is being an athlete going to stop you from developing your mind? There's a lot of intelligence required to be an athlete. And this guy, I mean, they're like, oh, no, there's no way. You couldn't, spend as much time reading and, doing all this. I'm just like, oh, you guys are crazy, right? But now it's on the other, now these 500 athletes are saying, hey, we wouldn't be able to reach this full human potential because, I mean, think about it. You watch on sports programs and they talk about that the Olympics are this celebration of, full human potential being reached by people that athletic feats
celebrated
are basically our full human potential.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we celebrate. Right. That's what all the heart stories are about.
Okay, I would love to offer something else
all
as
the
a
gymnastics
measure of full human potential.
Kids spending their every waking day and their parents' waking lives, becoming a gymnast, we celebrate them achieving their human potential.
Right. Sure. So then my question would be, if all of us agree, as the man, that something's wrong with this statement, that it almost, and to me, the way that they worded it almost made it so repugnant to say that this developing baby, fetus, whatever you want to call it, inside of a woman, that I have to get rid of it so that I can achieve my full human potential. It almost made it so obviously selfish. But then I started asking the question, how can we measure, in what ways do you actually experience your full human potential?
Say if a man doesn't lay his life down for his wife like Christ laid his life down for the church, he's not going to reach his full human potential.
Well, there's that. And
I mean, it's true. That's what we believe.
Yeah, if you don't have somebody in your life that you have to sacrifice some of your own desires and ambitions in order to serve them, I would say you cannot reach your full human potential without actually sacrificing. So it's almost like that actually having a baby, but the problem is, and I think they use the language forced pregnancy.
Yeah,
if I'm forced into this.
Of course, because it's emotional. I mean, it's a hot button. I mean,
you can only get to that level of unselfishness if you do it voluntarily.
It's good. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
right. Because otherwise, if you're forced into that situation, then
your choice has been taken away.
Your choice has been taken away. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think all of us know at some very deep level that there's a far more noble choice of laying down your life for someone to show them how much you love them, even if it's an unborn child.
Right.
Yeah. Man, but this is the Nevcast. We're talking about pursuing Jesus. Isn't there something better than reaching your full human potential? We're not trying to really reach our human potential.
Well, what's our human potential found?
Well, if any man is in Christ, he's a new creature. We're not trying to be human potential.
Then we are.
We're a new creation. We're different.
So what is the potential of humans?
We're superhuman.
What is the full potential of humans?
It's to be united and reach a supernatural potential.
What does that mean? Where are we actually going to as far as a supernatural potential? What do you mean by that? What are we going to end up doing?
Empty me out and let Christ live through me.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So but as far as us together, what are we going to end up doing in the long term for eternity?
Yeah, we're going to live in the kingdom of God. We're going to live under the kingdom of God. We're going to glorify God. We're going to glorify God.
It's still less than
love Him forever.
You're not getting there yet.
That's what I want to get to.
Okay, that's good. That's good. But there's an even greater amount of glory that we're actually destined for, according to if you're following Jesus.
We're gonna marry Jesus. We're gonna become one.
Okay, now think about
with
that.
Christ.
What does that mean? Think about it.
It means that we are the woman.
Yeah, humans. Right. So humans together, mankind together,
is
who have
the bride of Christ.
Jesus, to become the bride of Christ. And from a biblical perspective, that's not a subservient to Christ.
Right.
That's an equal with. So how will we as humans somehow be so glorious that we will equal the glory of Jesus, and that we will be a fitting counterpart to marry him and go on adventures with him and produce more and more, whatever it is, spiritual offspring or whatever, forever. Have that kind of intimacy that goes even beyond the intimacy that a husband and wife could experience in the best possible marriage.
It's amazing imagery. I mean, at the least.
Now that sounds like, if you understand that as full human potential, it becomes very difficult to say, when my body, from whatever circumstance, begins to produce more life, another life that's not just a physical body, but has a spirit as well. Yeah. That I could take the decision on myself, no matter what hardship it causes on me, to get rid of it. Now,
it's all kinds of terrestrial.
It sure would get a whole lot easier if there was so much, if the church's response, if Christians' response, if conservatives' response was,
there's something better.
There's something better, but also, hey, you know what? You are in a ridiculous, impossible situation.
Yeah.
We are going to help you. We're going to support you. We're not just going to leave you to try to take care of the baby on your own.
Right.
We want to give every absolute opportunity to support you in your ridiculous decision, whether it was your fault or not.
Yeah.
Right? I think if there had been that response when Roe v. Wade originally came out, instead of fighting to say, you can't abort, and you had people lining up outside abortion clinics shaming women who came in and shaming women who'd had abortions and stuff. I mean, that's terrible, traumatic. They've already gone through the trauma.
It's knee-jerk reaction. It's not Jesus' reaction.
It's not Jesus'
response. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what do you think about that, Rashid? We talked a bunch. The brothers, the Dave and Peter went off a bunch. What does our other brother think about all this?
I really think there's a bunch of them. I think they was just, whoever said that was just, like I said, I can't really even go deep on it. It don't make no sense to me. Like, how is that going? It just don't make no sense at all, man. So I think that's just some I don't know what it is. I just think there's some woman in her feelings, man, just wanting to be heard, man. I'm not saying nothing about women or nothing like that. I'm not a male chauvinist. I love women. I just think that's just a woman, crying out for help, man. That's all. She just needs to be loved, man.
She needs to be loved. Absolutely. They need to be loved. And that's got to be that's got to be our response. It made me think, oh my goodness. It is so sad if we as a culture have been deceived into thinking that our human potential can be measured by something other than relationships.
Yeah, there you go. That's what we were talking
because
about.
And yes, there was a relationship that became toxic, devastating, whatever, that didn't work out. And I'm sure there are probably some women out there who they were the ones responsible and they had bad intentions or something. Who knows? There's probably some of those, not nearly as many. But to then say, well, this new thing is happening, and I'm just going to completely end this relationship so I can do what I want. It just sounds like the height of. It just sounds so. It seems like
the guy gets to do what he wants, so why can't I get to do what I want? I mean, it's just.
It seems so obviously odious.
Yeah.
Why would anybody believe it? It's almost like them saying that would make anybody any judge on the Supreme Court go, well, I sure am glad that the ones who sided, with the majority opinion to uphold that Texas heartbeat law, would say, sure am glad that I upheld that Texas heartbeat law because, wow, that sure made it clear for me.
Yeah, it's overplaying their hand.
Yeah. Well, and so on the other one, there was, how much time do we have left? Well, we're like 10 minutes or so. So I want maybe to get into this really quickly. There's another story.
Oh, right.
This other story that came out, and I'll see
out
what you think
UK.
about this.
A little different.
So now in England,
from the
in the United Kingdom, the law states that you can have an abortion. You can choose to have an abortion as a woman up until the pregnancy is at 24 weeks. And if you think about that, I mean, that's 5.5 months right there, right? So after 5.5 months, and even, I mean, an abortion at 4 months, I mean, you're seeing body parts and stuff like that. So it's not like it's a, pure, wonderful
They
law,
get to that because pretty much at 24 weeks, most...
Guaranteed you can survive outside the womb. Yeah, as a baby. And so then they say after that, no abortions are possible. Although in America, up until recently, late-term abortions were still possible. But so there's that's the law. There's a woman who has Down syndrome, and there were also 2 other people in that, but she got the most publicity probably because, well, she has Down syndrome. And so, do you know what Down syndrome is, right, Rashi?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay. Well, so she's married, and this woman who is married, who has Down syndrome, she challenged the UK court along with these 2 other people that said, hey...
Because it was the part of the law in the UK that said that you can end it even beyond 24 weeks if the pregnancy is going to be, if the baby is going to have lots of disabilities that really...
Genetic disorders, whatever.
That negatively affect the life after
So
birth. Basically,
a woman in the UK cannot abort the baby after 24 weeks unless the baby has been screened and shown to have either Down syndrome or other severe disabilities, which were going to cause hardship on the family. So this woman, right? And so take in, we're putting now we're deciding which lives are valuable to put a limit on and which ones are not.
Yeah.
And so she sued the UK court saying, hey, I have Down syndrome. That law is inherently discriminatory because it says that I am not as valuable as people without Down syndrome, people who are born without a genetic chromosomal disorder. She challenged the court. The court ruled, while this is a very emotional and probably a very spiritual issue, we have to decide this on the basis of the law. And we cannot overturn this law. We think it strikes a fair balance between the needs of a family who maybe could not support a baby with disabilities and the needs of the unborn child. And they even use that term, the unborn child. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, it's obviously discriminatory. What if they said, if you're a white baby, you can not abort up to 24 weeks, but if it's a child that's not white, you could abort up to full. Everybody would agree that's discriminatory.
In some other countries and in the past, I mean, caste system and stuff like that. I mean, there was a case made that if you found out you were gonna have a girl, then
China for sure.
Then you didn't.
Only one child.
You did away with the pregnancy because she was going to be cost you a lot more money.
Right.
Not going to make you money. I mean,
that was okay.
Yeah, and promoted. I mean, isn't it still promoted? I mean. In
China, yes, it's promoted because they're still trying to limit population because they're so huge. Uh-huh. India's catching up and passing them up, and they don't really care.
Well, some parts of society in India care.
Sure, that's true. But as far as
favoring of men over women, I mean.
Well, it's favoring of men over women, but it's not limiting the size of the family. In China, It was limiting the size of the family. The government enacts a law.
Right.
And so then parents, if they're going to have a girl, they might abort because they hope for a boy, which happened in the Roman Empire too. They were throwing away all the girl babies outside the city, and the Christians would go and collect them. And pretty soon, the Christians had all the women who were eligible to marry were Christians. In order to marry them, you basically had to be they weren't going to marry you if you weren't a believer, if you weren't following Jesus. And so that was one of the ways that over time Christians actually won the Roman Empire. By
procreation and adoption.
By adoption, by saving babies that everybody else was willing to throw out. But it's interesting. So this woman goes, she challenges the law and she gets turned down. She says, I will not stop. I'm not going to stop fighting this, because I am being discriminated against, right? I mean, clearly if the law was that, you could abort white normal babies up until, what we say normal, right? Up until birth. You can't, right?
Can you imagine being the judge? It's like, man, when this kind of decision comes to your desk, and I mean, it just seems like it's so obvious. I know you don't necessarily want to legislate from the bench, but is that enough to be like, okay, I'm not going to be a judge anymore?
Well, that was a decision that they basically said Parliament should rule on this. We should get Parliament to enact a law on it, which is kind of like, it's a little bit of a cop-out. It's a similar thing to like if you have a law permitting slavery, and they say, well, according to the law, you're a slave. And
that is what they did for a while.
That's what they did until Parliament, English Parliament, a long time before the Americans, this is in the late 1700s, said we're going to ban all slavery because it's repugnant. It's something that should not be happening ever, that people should be subjected to slavery, should never be owned by someone else.
I thought it was in the early 1800s.
Maybe it was very early 1800s.
It was it was at least a generation before the
It was
United
a generational
States.
battle.
It was a generation before the United States, anyways.
But anyway, all this stuff,
if not more.
All this stuff, you've got, it's interesting. This is our culture.
Western.
This is our Western culture, and there are quite a few nations who still ban abortions, and do not allow them, right? But Western culture has decided that.
Well, we were just talking about but there's Eastern cultures that don't ban abortions.
Right. Well, there's that too.
I mean, this is a human issue.
It's a human issue,
and what is life, and what's our human potential.
Well, yeah. So it's just getting back to what's our human potential, and it's just like, man, I would hope that our society at the end of the day would decide to measure our human potential by the amount of people that we love, rather than the amount of things we achieve.
Yeah, but laws can't enact that kind of thing.
Well, no, you can't. Which is why we got this podcast.
Come on, everybody. Come on.
Shine on your brother. Got to love one another right now.
Yeah.
I just want to encourage. It's hard to like bring this home, but if you're thinking about your human potential, I guarantee you, every one of us struggles with this issue. It's become more obvious to me after having kids.
Truly.
I thought before I had kids,
a transformation happens.
There's a calling on my life. You ever heard people say this?
Yeah.
There's a calling on my life to use words to awaken people to see Jesus more clearly.
And then you have kids, and you're like, hey, caring for these kids is helping
kids.
Me live up to my human potential.
Yeah,
my spiritual calling.
That's right. My wife and I, we had kids, and God said, I want you to actually lay down that performance and that thing that you feel like you were called to. The thing that I gave
you, that I put in your hands?
I want you to give it back to me and trust me with it.
Yeah.
And so as what I've seen was, that does get me excited every time I do it in a way that nothing else does. But goodness gracious, these three precious little children gazing at me saying, Daddy, I love you. And this woman that I'm getting to spend the rest of my life with, when, she got me a card the other day that said, wherever my heart is, wherever you are. I'm like, if that doesn't help me to see what my full human potential is,
yeah,
what does?
Yeah.
please, and we were devastated. We were devastated, and we have grieved for the 3 children that we lost through miscarriage. There was, and it was only, we lost those children at 7-8 weeks. It was pretty early on, and yet we were still devastated because we knew that there was a real baby in there, and the hopes and dreams of that little child and our hopes and dreams for them were gone whenever we found out there was no heartbeat. And to know that there's an actual baby that's growing, that's got a heartbeat, whether or not it has disabilities or anything, it's alive and it's mine. And I get to pour all my love into this little tiny being for as long as I have on this earth. It's not guaranteed. Like you said, Rashi, the day is not guaranteed. We got to encourage each other while it's called today. I get to pour all my love for as long as possible into that. Man, I know people who have had a baby. The baby was born and then the baby only lived 18 months because it had a genetic disorder, and they loved that baby until the end. Gave it the best possible life, and they thought they would never have another baby. They just had another baby. They were so encouraged by the desire to have a child got so much stronger that they found a way to get pregnant again. When even the first one they thought was a miracle, it'll never happen again, they got pregnant again.
It's amazing.
And they just had the baby, and it's alive.
I mean,
know so many stories. That's full freaking human potential right there.
Yeah. And with my wife being a doula, I hear a lot of these stories.
You hear a lot of them all the time.
Yeah.
Right, and we've had her on the show. She's amazing.
Well, I'm glad we banned it in Texas, man. I heard some on the news about that we banned abortion in Texas, man. So
after 6 weeks, and but we need to be committed to supporting women who are in that position, and also to holding men accountable.
Yeah, we need to have compassion. Yeah,
and to have compassion.
We need to have compassion.
We
need to support no matter what.
It doesn't make you morally superior to say, well, you have to have the baby. And then just sit back. Man, goodness.
Figure it out.
Yeah, we're in this together. Yeah. And I'm so thankful for all the people who have pitched in and who've, loved on my kids and helped out my kids. I'm thankful it's not just me and Vicky loving on them too. Yeah. I mean, Hillary Clinton didn't coin this. It came from African culture.
Well, she called it a village. It's a family. She means family. But it does take a village.
It takes a whole community.
But that kind of village is a family.
Yes, and it takes a whole community that has the understanding of what real family is in order to give children the love and the care that they deserve so that they and we can achieve our full human potential together.
Truly.
You feel me, Rashid?
Right. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I feel you, good brother. Yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through what you went through, man.
Well, I tell you, I look at Kaz, I look at Pax, I look at Goldie. She's almost 4 months old. Oh my goodness, these little kids, they're so beautiful when they smile at you and they just look at you.
And there's just
wonder. Oh my goodness, like everybody needs to experience that. Then it sure gets way better if you've got somebody incredible that you're committed to, and who's committed to you to walk together with and do that together. Because it's a lot. Parenting's a lot. You need lots of people to help.
That's an understatement.
Many things are. Anyway. Well, this has been, I think we probably ought to land this plane. A pretty good episode of the Nevcast. I'll put my name to it.
Yeah, I'll sign off.
Join us next Wednesday, and find us wherever you've already found us. The Nevcast. Here we are. Tell your friends. You can
Neighbors,
find us.
Countrymen.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Probably the most.
You can only comment on the YouTube one though.
Oh really?
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Well, leave us some comments if you have some thoughts about this. We'd love to hear what you think. Mm-hmm. And good or bad, hey, we want to listen. We want to hear you, and we want to encourage you because you're valuable.
Truly.
No doubt, man. No doubt, yeah.
Love you, Rashi.
Yeah, I love you too, my brother.
All right.
Love you, man.
That's it for the Nevcast this time. Join us next week. when we talk justice, business, and art in pursuit of Jesus. We will see you soon.